guys do a great job.
Okay, this is Steve Gillmor, and this is the Gillmor Gang. We're experiencing some audio problems. Can you hear me now, Robert?
Can somebody talk to me?
Yes, Robert, can you hear me at all?
Unfortunately, it's using... I can't use headphones on this setup. It's a special microphone with a speaker in it, and the headphones aren't working unless I turn off my microphone.
Okay.
I have a special microphone, Clear One microphone, and it's hooked in through USB.
All right, let's just get going. Robert?
Now you're getting louder again. See, this is what's crazy.
Okay, well then let's do it. We're actually recording here, so... Hi, this is Steve Gillmor. Welcome to the Gillmor Gang. We've got 4 people here coming from different locations. At Ribbit headquarters is Kevin Marks.
Hi there. Actually, I'm at Noisebridge in San Francisco today, but
okay,
close enough.
Danny Sullivan, where are you located?
Hi.
Where are you?
I'm in Newport Beach.
That's in California, right?
That's in California, Southern California.
Okay. Mike Arrington, where are you?
Seattle.
And Robert Scoble, where are you?
I'm in Omaha, Nebraska.
Excellent. So while we can all hear each other, what do you guys want to talk about? What's most interesting to you that's going on right now?
There's been nothing really going on recently. I don't...
At all?
Nothing's really been in the news. It's been pretty calm. There's been some Facebook stuff, I think, though. But I think Mike should start off on that.
Yeah, Mike, you seem to be the voice of reason. This is kind of a strange position for you to be in.
Well, as usual, I'm the person to sort of bring calm to the situation. I'm reading this. I'd love to talk about this later. I'm pretty sure this is an official site controlled by British Petroleum, and they're actually asking people for ideas on how to stop the oil leak. Anyway, that's going to be a post later.
Drill, baby, burn.
Pardon?
Drill, baby, drill. Wasn't that what McCain was advocating?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. As soon as the Democrats get in power, everything goes to hell. I'll tell you that.
Speaking as a...
I thought the Tories were in power.
So you think that Obama's the worst president ever, right?
Who said that?
Anybody?
I endorsed Obama. I don't think he deserved the Legion of Honor or the... What did he get? The...
Nobel Prize.
Nobel Prize. The Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, that's sort of ridiculous. I think, we should give that to Scoble before we give it to Obama. But, yeah, I think he's what he said he was going to be. The tax and spend liberal.
Okay. Starting off with a roar. So what else? So what is this deal with Facebook? Why do you think that they're being unfairly maligned?
You asking me?
Yeah.
I think Facebook's run into another privacy problem. This one may be as big or bigger than Beacon. It's hard to tell without a little bit of hindsight how much of an issue it really is. And everybody's writing about it. And the problem is, simultaneous to this, some stuff has come out. I think Silicon Valley Insider found it. That shows Zuckerberg being a college student and saying he doesn't care about privacy when he was 19 years old, and that looks really bad. So the reason why you said I'm trying to be the voice of reason, I just look at it as I think it's reasonable to debate privacy issues on Facebook. I think Danny and Robert have both had really reasonable posts on this with really deep thinking, but some other people have really gone after Mark personally, and I think it just they dehumanize him to the point where, one, it's not as interesting to me at least, and two, is I just don't think it's relevant to the conversation.
So, Robert, what's your take on it? Scoble, can you hear me?
I can barely hear you, but I heard Arrington just fine. Yeah, I'm here at the big Omaha conference, and Gary Vaynerchuk asked how many people have deleted their accounts, and 2 people in the audience of 400 people have deleted their accounts. And that sort of matches what I'm hearing. There's not a groundswell of angst from the normal, everyday Facebook user. I interviewed my wife yesterday on the way to the airport, and she doesn't see the problem with the privacy. But there is a PR problem, and it's a PR problem from a little bit of factual, but a lot of heat and motion, and a lot of loss of trust. I think that's the one that I am having a hard time debating on Facebook's stance, because they've changed what their service is so many times that people are yet again getting angry that Zuckerberg is changing the system or changing the service to being something that they didn't expect it to be.
Danny?
I probably disagree with Robert that there's not a big groundswell of people that are upset. I don't think you're at a blog conference, right, Robert? So I don't think that's a group of normal people to be surveying. What I've been writing this week...
Well, who else to survey?
Well, so if we want to talk about normal people, what I was looking at earlier this week that I wrote about was I was doing a search for how can I, because I was curious what people were how can I-ing on Google. And you're probably familiar that Google will suggest terms, and those terms that it suggests come from the search activity that it sees. And suddenly, like, one of the top things was how can I delete my Facebook account, which does not appear to have been something that was what people were searching on several months ago. And then I further looked, and we're actually seeing a spike in trends. There are a number of people who are actually searching for this. And then I've heard from somebody who actually has a page that ranks highly in Google about it, and they've seen a spike of people that were going into it. So I think there are plenty of normal people who are disturbed to the point that they're actually looking about how they can delete it. And as to whether or not they're actually taking that action, only Facebook could tell us the most. And I tried to get some numbers from them yesterday, and they wouldn't give me any numbers, but they would tell me what their growth was. And they told me, well, since all this stuff happened at F8, we've had more than 10 million people become active users at Facebook. We've grown 10 million active users. And I went back and I looked at the numbers of how many active users they seem to get month by month, and that's actually down by 25 to 50% of what they normally get. So there are a lot of things that actually make me think that this just isn't a PR problem for Facebook, that they might actually be losing some people. But I do agree with Robert that I think this is much bigger of an issue on a PR front. If they actually lose 5 million, 10 million people, it's still a drop in the bucket to them. But I think they're losing a lot of trust. I agreed with Mike that I think that there's a big, huge pile-on going on that's getting all too personal sometimes. What has been interesting, though, is as everybody keeps going away with it, it kind of feels like Facebook doesn't get to be allowed to have one of its Teflon moments again, where it does a privacy thing and it can slip through. And so I'm just hopeful that maybe they are actually going to take some of this stuff on board, and that we're going to see some real changes, because some of the stuff that they've been doing has been disturbing.
I don't remember any.
Can you speak as to what the changes have been and make it specific about what is leaking out of your privacy? Because I've been playing with these accounts now for a couple of days, and I don't see that they've made public a whole lot, and a lot of people are really misunderstanding what has been made public from what I can
Sure, Robert. Well, what people are understanding, and I think the biggest issue is, it feels like every quarter Facebook does something different that causes them to think, do I have to go back and recheck my privacy? They didn't join Facebook because they wanted to constantly have to monitor whether or not Facebook has screwed up what they're sharing or what they're not sharing. They joined Facebook because they wanted to share stuff, as with friends, with family, with the world, or whatever. It becomes work. This is what drove me insane in December, and that's one of the examples. In December, Facebook popped up this little screen saying, hey, these posts that you're making, we're going to ship those over to being posts that you make to the world, not just posts to your friends. That was a substantial change. That was the default option that they shifted me and shifted many other people to. Now, you still had to review it, and you still could go review it, and you still had control about it. People may not have done that, and perhaps it's fault on those people for not doing it, or perhaps it's really fault on Facebook for saying, we think it would be helpful if we were more like Twitter, so we're going to force you to make all your posts public. That was another post that I did too, because now you can actually search on Facebook and see what people are saying to the world more easily than you could in the past. And some of the things that they're saying are things that they may not actually want to be sharing to the world, or they may not realize that they're sharing with the world. More recently, the thing that they did that really impacted everybody was the auto sharing. You went to Yelp. I know you love going to Yelp, and you love the fact that Yelp has got everything all personalized for you. But Facebook didn't ask anybody about that. Facebook did it. They told you afterwards that they were doing it, but they just did it anyway. Which is why when Elliot Schrage was telling the New York Times that Facebook was all about the opting in, I couldn't believe it, because nobody opted in to have Yelp and Pandora and, what is it, Microsoft Docs automatically know everything about them that Facebook wants to share. Yeah.
Danny.
Yeah.
I agree it's not a trivial issue. The opt-in stuff where Facebook is passing information to third-party sites without your express opt-in permission, it's a big deal. I mean, it's a really big deal. But Facebook's still a young company. I mean, one of the things I got into my post yesterday is that they're going through a transformative stage here. And these experiments are going to happen, and some people are going to like them and some aren't. To me, it seems like it's more of a communication issue than anything. I mean, they could have done a much better job communicating, but it's not, we can't expect the internet to stand still for people not to try these things, right?
No, I agree with that, but I think the difficulty is, and that's a lot what Eric said also, well, we must do a better job of communicating, and what I said in one of my posts was, if you're constantly having to communicate with your users about what you've done, then you're probably doing a bad job, period. It should make sense to them. I shouldn't have to constantly have you send me an essay about what you've done and what I need to re-examine. If you want to change things, that's great. I mean,
but and
I'm not saying that they should stay still.
I'm sorry. I think
what's that?
He's just not listening to you. Go ahead, Mike.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just think it's more interesting to think about a longer timeline and what's going on with the internet than it is to how Facebook screwed up, you know, in the last few weeks in particular, because they clearly did. I mean, there's no denying that there's some things that they did very, very wrong. But what's fascinating to me is just how the internet's evolving and how Facebook is making themselves literally the plumb, well, not literally, but significantly making themselves the plumbing of the internet, and how they're actually managing to pull this off with, if their user growth went from 25 million to 10 million in a month, that's not a big price to pay for what they're pulling off here.
Right.
For them, I mean, but they're not paying the price. That's the point. Is that the other people are paying the price because what they think is happening has changed on them, and that's what they're getting upset about.
What does that really mean? I mean, that's easy to get mad about, but what does that really mean? Like, Yelp has my data and I'm mad about it? Like, okay, but I go on with my day after that, right?
Well, it's fairly easy for us because we're used to this. We live in public already, so it's hard for us to think back into the mindset of someone who is scared, has someone who has power over them, and can be very upset by this stuff.
But Kevin,
I think they're scared because the media is freaking out and telling them the world is ending, and Mark Zuckerberg's evil and he doesn't care about anything and he's a punk and he steals and all this. I think that's what's causing people to freak out. Well, you know, it's funny because Robert said, "What is the big issue?" Right? And then Danny gave a good answer, but the issue isn't the privacy stuff as much now as it is, the issue is the sort of shitstorm that's blown up around this. That to me is that's what I wrote about last night, is just the...
No, I read your piece, but I've also read Dana's thing that she just posted, and you know, Dana Boyd actually goes around interviewing people and understanding how they use this stuff rather than just using her own experience. And her take is that most people do not understand what Facebook is sharing with whom. And their assumption was they were creating something that was for a small group of people, and suddenly they find everything's shared out to the people they're not expecting to see it.
Yeah. I have no idea what's public and what's private on Facebook for me. I have no idea how to use the privacies. I haven't really spent the time. It's too granular and it changes all the time. So I just sort of assume everything's public.
And And that's that's kind of what Mark Zuckerberg wants you to assume. He's trying to make people.
It's not what he wants you to assume. It's not what he wants you to assume. It is, in fact, what people assume. Ever since Twitter, people assume that they're public.
They didn't. No. On the internet, we started assuming that. On Facebook, we didn't. The point of Facebook originally was you're creating this private space for your family and your school.
No. Okay, first of all, Facebook, when it first hit the market, was for Harvard college kids to talk to each other, and they got pissed off when all the other colleges got invited, and then the college kids got pissed off when all the old people like me got invited, and then we got pissed off when when the application platform opened up, and all of a sudden we were getting spammed with all these apps, and Zuckerberg has pissed off his audience 5 or 6 times, and this is yet another time when he's shifting his business in a dramatic way and it's in a scary way because we see how he's putting like buttons all over the internet and really making a dramatic, charge for taking over the web in a way, and he's changing the privacy because he wants to build a search engine, and everybody knows that, and that's how he's going to make a lot of money. And he's pushing his audience to...
I think it's not just making money. I think it is that this is his worldview. His worldview is that people should be more public. He's become more public. He's been through disclosure for lawsuits. So he's had his IM stuck all over the newspapers. So he's in that same space that the Microsoft guys were 10 years ago. And their reaction was...
Scott McNeely said this a long time ago. He said, the idea of privacy, get over it.
Yeah, no, of course. And David Brin wrote it 15 years ago.
We all pay our electric bill. We also pay our internet bill. We know that we're not just broadcasting down the hall.
No, we know that because it's what we've been doing for 10 years. We've been blogging since 2000.
My daughter doesn't even know anything except Facebook. Her whole world is Facebook. She knows perfectly well what's going on there. She's not an expert user. She's an average user. She's 16 years old. Facebook is email. It's IM, it's communications, it's photos, it's video, it's everything. Period. This isn't Mark Zuckerberg's opinion. This is everybody's opinion.
Well, I think that, first of all, I get kind of uncomfortable when we characterize things that Facebook does as somehow something that Mark Zuckerberg's doing. I know he's running it. I know he has a vision. I know some of the things he said seem to also be conveniently tying into why Facebook does things. Like, if Facebook wants everybody to be more public, then he's saying, well, we're all getting more public. And I don't honestly know whether he believes that that's what he thinks everybody should be doing or not. But certainly I think we can agree that there are plenty of people on Facebook who do not use the service to share everything to the world and had no intention of using the service to share everything to the world. I don't know if that's a majority of them, a significant minority of them, but there are a chunk of people who I think felt like Facebook was a place where I could share and have some control over it. And I think there's a significant number of those people who may be worried that they're losing that control. There are plenty of other people who, whatever I put on Facebook, that's to the world. That's kind of how I operate. I think that's a very smart way for anybody who uses Facebook these days to be operating, that whatever you do, that's going to go on out to the world. But it still doesn't sit well with me that there's a suggestion that, oh, well, the world is just all losing its privacy, or we're all just supposed to be public, or that's just the way things are. I think people have stuff that they want to maintain and continue to have private. And I think Mark has things that he wants to continue to be private. I think any human being has things that they want to be having private.
But first of all, Danny, this is entirely too reasonable of you. So I'm not sure that we can hear much more of this.
I hope Steve's audio is better on the final than it is here. I can't.
You can't hear me either. How's that? Can you hear me now? You don't care.
I can't hear you.
Okay.
I'm trying to lip read. But...
All right, so everybody else talk. Go ahead.
So Mike Taylor in the chat room said that during all of these previous growth phases, the user's basic data was still default private. I had to invite you into my Facebook realm. Now it's default public, and that is different. And that's a legitimate complaint. But more than a year ago, I added more than 2,000 people as friends, and none of them turned off their friend graph or their basic information. I think most people want their basic friend graph to be public and want their basic information.
Oh my God, Robert! I don't even think most people know what a basic friend graph is. I mean, you already lost them at graph.
No, that's not true. Everybody who joins Facebook,
it is true. Oh my God! Most people know what graph is.
Give me a break. I mean, come on. You're expecting everybody not to have at least some basic understanding of how Facebook is when you click on a friend and you see all the lists of friends right underneath them. They don't understand that.
When you say,
I mean, normal people understand this stuff at a much deeper level than you're giving them credit for.
They don't understand that it's their friend graph. So if you want to talk about what normal people understand, talk about...
They don't understand transitivity and asymmetry.
They know when they click on Danny Sullivan's name, they see all the friends that Danny Sullivan has. Okay? I use that feature to troll around millions of people around the internet.
But they don't necessarily understand that friends of friends includes their mother. If they haven't, it's not
Yes, they
include
do.
them.
When you click on your site,
No, they
you see-
don't. Dane has actually
it-
researched this by asking people and then showing them, rather than just like relying on her own experience like you do. She's actually gone out and surveyed hundreds of people.
I've surveyed a lot of people too. I'm not. Maybe
But
I
you're
don't do it.
not an ethnographer. You don't. You know.
To a lot of
And
people,
you-
don't attack me that way because
not
I get
attacking
around
you.
and talk to a lot of people around the world. Okay?
I'm saying that don't assume your experience is everyone's experience.
I'm not talking to hundreds of people. Don't treat me like an idiot that doesn't have any attachment to people.
I'm saying that the people you encounter are not typical.
That's totally false. I sit next to people in planes all the time who are normal people who get forced into my life, and I talk to them about these issues. They do not care. If they did care, my damn comment feed and TechCrunch's comment feed would have 10,000 comments on it. It has how many comments have you gotten, Mike, on your post? A couple
10,000.
hundred? Give me a break.
I deleted 9,990 of them though. That disagreed with me. That was funny.
I don't, Robert. I don't think people understand what a graph is. I don't think that they really understand that there is the ability to not only figure out who their friends are, but then to share information from one friend to another degree of a friend to another degree of a friend. I think that's a mystery to many people. I mean, that.
Have you done
I
a
do.
test? I've done a
But I
test with a
can't. I
normal
haven't sat
user.
around and I haven't done a survey and talked to all the people and things like that.
I know,
At the same time, I talk to plenty of people on the search space who don't even understand how links work. They don't
Right.
understand how like a link, which is a pretty basic concept I would think to understand. I agree with you. I think people could get the idea that, oh, yeah, Facebook knows who my friends are. I think a lot of people might understand that, oh, when I put something on Facebook, sure, it's kind of telling some of my other friends. I think that if you talk to some people and said, well, do you know that when you click on an ad on Facebook, that that ad that you clicked on, that you may have friends or to a friend of your friends, something like that. I think that might get a bit beyond them, but that's more my gut feeling.
It seems to me. Can I jump in for a second?
Yeah.
It seems to me there's two ways to look at Facebook from a higher level, and without all the muck we're talking about. One is it's a place where you have a profile and you have friends, and you can see your friends' profiles and they can see yours. And by profile, I mean everything that you want to, let's say everything roughly. But no one else can. So if you search the site, maybe you can see that you're a member, but you can't even see a profile picture, etc. That's sort of the old way of Facebook, and a lot of people liked that, and it was great. The problem with that is Twitter eats their lunch in the long run with that happening, and it leaves them wide open with Google competing with them as well. But that's one way to think of Facebook. The other way is it's a place where I put my information. I understand it's on the internet and it's findable, and it's a way for me to keep track of my friends basically by following them. Even though they don't have the follow model. And so it sort of prompts me as to, hey, look at what your friends are doing, but it's not only you can see what your friends are doing. And the first way is the way Facebook used to be. The second way is the way Facebook's going to be. Are we all in agreement on that? Is there any part of that that's wrong, do you think?
No, I think you nailed it. That Facebook is changing, and people are a little angry about the fact that it's changing. The same way the college kids were angry. I remember having these same discussions with college kids, saying, "What the hell? They let adults into this thing. This was so great because it was only college kids, and now my mom can get in here." And they were quite angry, and because the system has changed, and now the system is changing again in a way that maybe people don't like, but this is the world. You need search, you need these features. I love these features like on Pandora, where I can see what music Mike Arrington's listening to if he's on Pandora, and I can listen to the same music and I can add it to my playlist. That's a magical feature that's made me discover more music in the past 2 weeks than I've discovered in a year.
Well, if we all know where Facebook's going.
So, okay, we're not against the ability to discover stuff through the internet with your friends. You know, I've been arguing for that for 3 years. That's obviously something that's valuable. The question is whether it all gets rooted through one company. That's the other half of this. Or is this going to be something that we can do, whether we can host it ourselves, or whether the only way to do this is Facebook owns the entire database of who knows whom, and there is only one set of models of who knows whom, which is also very much part of their model. That's
that's a problem with unwinding this story and this hype storm, is that there's several different threads going on about this at the same time, because some of what I'm hearing from both normal people and geeks is that Facebook is now a dramatically big and scary company. We heard that right at the press conference. All the journalists were like, wow, this is scary, new, big. I use the word ambitious, on my headline, that Facebook is going after the web in a way that we are scared of. And that should be separate from the privacy problems that Facebook's having.
But they go together. You're obviously more scared of a big company than a small company. You're more scared of Microsoft or Google than you are of Palm, because even though Palm has all your phone numbers and all your voice messages, they don't seem big enough to be scary.
Palm is not scary at all. How's that?
There's nothing. See, we've now moved from what users care about to what competitors to Facebook and third-party developers care about, which is interesting to a smaller group of people, but they care a lot. I've written that I don't think there's anything that can stop Facebook from owning all this. I know you've got the high-level dream. Microsoft in the 90s. It just is what it is. There's nothing that's going to happen that's going to stop this at this point. Maybe the government, if the attorneys generals really, none of them want to run for governor and really go after Facebook, maybe something can happen there. But this is just what it is. We're going to have to get used to it.
Nah. That's, to say you can never overthrow the big company is wrong. People, I said people are scared of Microsoft. That may not be true anymore.
I didn't say they're scared of
Microsoft.
I said they're going to own this infrastructure.
People aren't scared of. Can anybody hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we can all hear you.
Great. It was my fault, Robert. You can go back to just being angry for your own reasons. Nobody's afraid of Facebook. There's like 30 people that are upset about this. They all happen to be in the media because that's a good way to make a living. But nobody's afraid of them. People are voting with their feet. They're joining it. They're going around. They're liking stuff. How do you argue with people? Oh, come on.
The diaspora guys raised 100K in 15 days from people who were scared
100K? Oh my God.
That's not bad. You obviously haven't done seed fund.
Diaspora. Doesn't that mean a formless waste of time and energy? Isn't that what that word stands for?
No, that means like spanning out. Leaving a place and spreading out.
Yeah,
but
aimlessly.
Anyway, I'm not saying that the diaspora is going to solve the problem. It's a marker for interest.
Well, okay, so there's $100,000 in interest. Okay. They're going to disrupt the age of Facebook, which is beginning right now. I mean, it is inevitable. Facebook is turning into the operating system for the web, and they've invented it, and they're executing on it, and no one's anywhere near it. No one can touch it, and it's going to happen.
I disagree.
Well, okay, show me an example of it not happening with previous companies. I mean, if you look, in my lifetime, I watched Microsoft dominate until a new technology disrupted their revenue streams, and that was the internet and the browser. And they're still making tons of money, by the way, from Office and Windows. Sure. Google owned the last 10 years because they figured out the right way to pair monetization and good search. That's great. And Google's going to make a lot of money for a long time. No one disrupted any of those guys until new technology came by that allowed them to, and Google's still going strong. This is just going to happen. Like, who on the horizon, besides diaspora, is going to challenge Facebook? No one.
As a social sharing
what?
portal.
I mean,
without anybody
they only gained 10 million users last month.
I mean, who has more users than Facebook now? I mean, they're past Google what, a month ago?
No, Google has like 900 million uniques a month, but they're not bigger than Google. But they're going to be.
Well, I mean, 900 million uniques of people who are doing what?
You're talking about.
What are people doing on Google? How many people on this call have actually clicked on a search link?
I've done 5 in the last 30 seconds. I'm trying to figure out this BP oil spill thing that's hilarious. But.
All right, Danny, you were saying?
That's all I had to say. I kind of agree with Mike. I don't think things are going to slow Facebook down. I think that they, have developed and emerged as the winner for the time being, and that means probably for the next few years, certainly, for being a social sharing portal, for being a place where you can connect with your friends and share your information. I don't think that they're a replacement for the web, nor do I think that I would call it a Facebook age. I think Facebook will coexist and continue to be part of the web, but I don't think it's going to surpass it.
Okay, well, here's a good transition point.
But let me just finish up. But I think that the point is not how many people are quitting or how many people are upset or what's the number or what it might slow them down, as much as does Facebook as a company want to be the company that's known as, well, they're dominant despite doing all these things or despite having this bad rep? Or do you want to be the company that has been successful and is warmly loved as well? And I think that's a decision that companies make. And I think we have big companies that a lot of people can look at and say, well, they're big, but they've been good actors.
Yeah, I think Bill Gates made that decision. He said, I think I'll just be the richest man on earth.
And it may be that that's the way Facebook's going to go. And I have to say, as you watch a lot of the stuff, you kind of feel like that's been their attitude. And when I compare to Google, I think their attitude has been, we want to be good. I think they make a lot of mistakes because they think they're being good when they're really not, and they convince themselves that they're being good. And maybe that's what's happening with Facebook. They think, well, no, all this stuff is good. No, nobody should be upset. We're just doing all these nice things. And there's an internal misconception of what's actually happening outwardly.
All right, well, I want to use this as a transition point. You mentioned the idea that somehow Facebook is threatening to take over the web. The co-founders of Adobe said something similar today or yesterday in their discussion around Flash. They said something about how it wasn't right for one company, aka Apple, to take over the web with proprietary technology, which I found amusing, given that they have a proprietary technology. But I mean, is there really such a tremendous fear? I don't know, Mike. Are you afraid of Apple taking over too?
No. So the key thing about Facebook is that they have a network effect, and that's a huge competitive advantage. It makes it impossible for anyone except diaspora to ever compete with them. Apple has a network effect. I mean, the network effect is the most powerful business model protector known to man. It's more powerful than patents, more powerful than anything else. It's the reason why alternate phone networks don't pop up when we're in a landline world. The idea is that every new user increases the value of the entire network to all users. So Facebook has that, and by the way, one of the best books I ever read was On the Network Effect for people who aren't sort of very familiar with how it works in business. But Apple doesn't have nearly as strong of a network effect. They have it with iTunes a little bit, and they have it with just the fact that the cult of iPhone, everyone wants to be seen with one, but it's significantly less powerful, and they can absolutely, they'll probably have their downs again. They just happen to have the most brilliant product, human being ever. I mean, Steve Jobs is, sort of once in 1,000 years type person, and
yeah, but I mean, he went away for almost 2 years because of health reasons, and they just kept cooking right along.
Yeah, but if you think about Apple during the 10+ years that he was gone, they were done after a while. So I mean, Steve could retire, and Apple will do fine for quite a while. But
right, but I mean, when he came back, one of the things that he brought back with him was a very clever and aggressive strategy around open source, with WebKit and with OS, is it 2 or 10? So it's kind of ironic that Adobe is faced with this problem of trying to play catch up and say, yes, well, we're going to open source SWF or whatever they said they're going to open source, when Jobs has already out-innovated them. I mean, there's this huge HTML.
Why is that interesting? I mean, that's interesting the same way diaspora is interesting. I mean, aren't we all in agreement that Adobe's done? I mean, at least the Flash part of their business. I mean, there's just what's interesting about it anymore.
Well, I just wanted you to say that.
A lot of stuff on the net, but it seems like we clearly know its execution date is coming, and HTML5 is going to take over in video, and games. Who cares?
And according to Schoenfeld, that's going to happen sooner than later.
That's being disrupted, Mike. I mean, that's the your case was you can't disrupt something once it's incumbent, and this is an example of something that has been that Flash was the way that we will end up doing video for a few years. Now suddenly it's being displaced by a bunch of people defining standards.
Yeah, but it's what's the opposite of monopoly? It's a monopsony. The Flash. The problem with Flash is the browsers have to agree to sort of have it in, and up until the iPhone, everyone had to have it in because no one's going to use your browser unless you support Flash.
Well, also Microsoft put it in everything by putting it in Windows.
But then Apple actually pulled off on the mobile phone a great experience without Flash, and now people can think of a world on the desktop without Flash.
Right.
No problem. It was amazing.
But Flash wasn't available for the iPhone. There was Apple couldn't have shipped it even if they wanted to. No one has yet shown me a working Flash on the iPhone. Have you seen that?
They could do it now. I mean, Android is going to have it, but it's just done. Like, who cares? I mean, I look at HTML5 video on my iPad, and it's stunning and great and way better than Flash. And who cares anymore? So I just think the conversation's basically over, and they're in their death throes. And I'm not really that interested in reporting on stuff that's already going to play out the way we know it's going to play out.
Amen.
Excellent. Well, all I wanted to hear you say was that Flash was dead. Now we can move on. All right, Robert, what do you want to talk about? What?
iPad. I've 30 or 40 people here in the audience had iPads, and we're still discovering what this is good for and what apps are cool. And
all right, so do we think that Google's iPad competitor is going to be meaningful or not?
I don't know. That's
What?
the big question for next. I assume it's going to be meaningful in the same way Android is meaningful as a competitor to iPhone.
Well, do you think that Android? How's the Nexus One doing, Mike? Are you still using it?
I lost it in my move. I've been using my Android, but I love the Android. I mean, I never use the keyboard. I mean, sorry, the Droid. But I don't know where my Nexus One is. I have no idea. It's actually a bit of a security problem. Because if you have it,
Kevin's got it.
You've got access to everything I have.
That's a Droid too.
Well, I was excited to hear that it's possible that we're going to have tethering in the next rev of Android. It'll be interesting to see how pathetic.
It's possible. Like I didn't say we think it might happen. I said it's confirmed it's going to happen. It's definitely happening.
Yeah, but it's confirmed that it's going to be in the OS. But then there's all the carriers who aren't going to allow it. So is anybody going to actually use the tethering feature? Because boy, if they do,
I'm
not sure they
you can do tethering on it now.
What?
You just have to download the right software.
Well, you have to jailbreak your phone?
You don't have to jailbreak it.
There's no jail.
You use software from like PDA-Net, and it should enable your Android phone to do tethering in the same way that it's long time. Yeah, there you are. That allows tethering to happen off of your Windows mobile phone.
Well, that sounds like a great reason to just take your Nexus One and make it into a. I mean, you can do that on AT&T. They're going to let you do that.
I think on AT&T it's the other way around. I think you want to actually make your phone calls over Wi-Fi because the network isn't there. But Sprint said I went to the Android developers meetup on the other night, Wednesday I think it was, and the Sprint rep was there saying yes, we're going to ship this in the phone. We're going to make sure it's a natural Wi-Fi hotspot on our 4G network. Out of the box, that's clearly part of what we want to be doing now. So I think the ground has moved on that, and then they understand that that's a useful thing.
Well, but I mean, take a look at Verizon saying forget it to the Nexus One. Do you really think the carriers are going to break this wide open? Yeah,
but Verizon said forget it to the Nexus One because they already have the Incredible phone, which is a better phone. This is what happens every 2 months. A new Android phone comes out, and it's way better than the one that came before it. The Nexus One is way better than my Droid.
Okay, so which is it? Is Google doing this masterfully intelligent and inevitable strategy where they've got this store where everybody's going to buy it online, and then this is going to happen, and then they take all that stuff down because it doesn't work,
Yeah.
So, I mean, which is it? Is Google to be feared, or is Google, a patsy that's getting played by Apple?
Well, no, that's a
Well, no.
classic
The point is
example
the
of
distinction between
that's
Google and Android, right?
What?
There's a distinction between Google and Android. So what they've done with Android is create this platform that's possible for other people to build lots of.
Well, there's a difference between Microsoft and
And lots
Windows,
of people are
but
doing
it's
that.
a very small difference.
No, but because it's open source, anyone can build devices on it. And I've seen a bunch of devices that people have brought to me that they built without talking to Google, that they just use the Android source on, that are quite interesting and they don't look like other handsets. They're bigger. I've seen a desk phone that runs Android. That was interesting.
What's interesting about that?
Well, think about how crap your desk phone is compared to your mobile phone. Once you've got a desk phone that actually behaves like that has the ability to do an address book and conference call and all the stuff you can actually do on a cell phone now, that's actually much more interesting than those crappy plastic phones you've got where you've got to dial star, whatever the hell it is, to make it do anything and nobody ever does.
Yeah, but I don't need any of that
I
because
hate
I've got
when you
it.
do that.
Huh?
What?
Yeah.
Say what?
My crappy
It's
phone actually
stupid
works
you
really
move the
well on my
camera to
desk to let me make phone calls, which is pretty cool because I can talk to people and hear them. So I'm happy with it. my phone's like 20 years old. I kid you not. But I think the Nexus One
But that's the point.
store
The point is
illustrates.
the desk phone has a proper headset and microphone, and it isn't like the piece of shit microphone you get in most of the handsets. And it's designed for someone who makes calls all day. But they've built. I've seen people build these, but they're now running Android on them, which makes them interesting because you can do other stuff with them too.
So what do you need a piece of shit desktop phone for if you've got this great phone that you're using?
When your phone crashes. So you can call tech support.
Then I pick up my BlackBerry and I use that.
I know. I think the
I don't get
Nexus
it.
One story is really instructive about Google, though, because Google will get painted out as having these grand master plans, and they're going to do this stuff, and the reality is that within the company, sometimes there's not a lot of internal decision making, or people are allowed to do different things independently that can work against each other. It was kind of insane for Google to roll out its own handset, its own branded handset, to piss off carriers and handset makers if they weren't HTC, which is what happened. And on top of that, we got trotted out, at their press conference, how this is going to be great. We're going to sell it online. No, people don't need to touch and hold the phone. And how are you going to market the phone? Oh, well, we're Google. People come to our homepage all the time. It's a big fat failure. It's a huge failure. Maybe it was a success in that, it got some people excited about it. Maybe it was a success in that possibly it caused everybody else who was already supporting Android to maybe step up even sooner, but it actually seemed to cost them a lot of goodwill, and it also seemed to be another thing that just further cemented their breakup with Apple. That now they're actually even rolling out their own phone. You just kind of look and think, what the hell were you thinking doing that? You didn't need to do it. It went against everything you guys had ever said you were supposed to do before. So. All
right. So again, is the Google tablet going to make any difference whatsoever?
I agree exactly with what Robert said. It's going to, the tablet will be like Android is to the iPhone. That the iPhone was this revolutionary device that caused people to realize that an ordinary person could have a data phone that was really cool. We had those even before the iPhone, and I used one for years.
It's the Washington Generals to the Harlem Globetrotters. They're there only to lose.
No, I wouldn't say that at all, and I wouldn't say an Android.
And now here they are. Do you ever know who's Meadowlark Lemon? He said you know that name, right?
Steve, before you go off
don't think
your
that's
historical tangents, the deal is if you want to build a tablet and you're not Apple, what are you going to do as an operating system? And I mean, HP just threw away whatever they threw away on Palm.
$2 billion.
But everyone else is going to use Chrome. I mean, Windows 7 isn't ready. Windows 8 probably will be, but that's way down the road. It's all you got, and it's the same with the phones. Like, you want to build a great phone right now, and you're not RIM, and you're not Apple. You have to go with Android, and they pay you to do it. So that's why it's successful. And yeah, Danny's right. They pissed off a lot of people with the store, but they also showed a pretty awesome device and what kind of stuff you can do with Android. And I think people started thinking about Android a lot differently in the beginning of this year because of that.
Absolutely true. All I'm saying is that the net result is that Apple sells more and more of whatever they're making.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had lunch with the HP CTO 2 weeks ago, right before they bought Palm, and I said,
Robert, you're breaking up a little bit. Can you lean into the mic? Yeah.
Okay. So I had lunch with the CTO from HP about 2 weeks ago, right before they bought Palm, and I was showing him my iPad, and I said, "How are you going to ship a device that competes with this with Windows? Because Windows is just not meant to be on a tablet. There are pieces of Windows and apps and things that have been built for Windows that just don't feel good when you're using your finger on a screen." And I think that's what the iPad did brilliantly. He threw away everything that doesn't work. It doesn't have a camera. Why not? Because he couldn't get it to work right. He threw away printing. It doesn't have printing. Why not? Because he couldn't make it work right on your couch,
Oh, he totally could have done that. That was just stupidity.
I don't get how you can't get a phone. I don't get how you can't get a camera to work on a giant iPhone. How hard was it to take a
I can argue the camera, but printing is something you really miss using the iPad. My son's got the iPad. He's tried to use it to do work. He can't print anything without syncing it to his Mac and messing around.
I don't think Mike's missing printing.
Kevin, actually, I figured out a very easy way to do.
What?
Very easy.
Hey, Danny.
Easy way to, go ahead.
Say it and then listen.
There's a very easy way to print off your iPad. You just put it on your copier. It works out really well.
Okay.
Bring it up.
Mike,
but seriously, they've got a decent network in there. They've got zero conf. They can discover the printers. It's in the OS. It's been in the OS.
What is wrong with you people? This is the greatest device I've ever held in my hand.
Absolutely.
One of the early versions of the Crunch Pad, and you're pissed that it doesn't have a camera and it doesn't print. I mean, has this changed your life? You can't just be negative all the time. At some point you gotta go okay, this is pretty cool, right?
I'm not being negative at all.
I'm saying it's cool. I just think it should print.
Look, I got one and I've used it, and people keep asking.
Okay, everybody hold up their iPads.
And I'm going, It's great when I need to do a little bit more than I can do on my phone, but I'm still constantly reaching for my. I'm just telling you.
Childhood innocence left you, and oh my God, this is amazing! I can read email right before I go to bed, and I don't have to squint right at the screen.
But I've been doing that on my phone. I mean, it's
what?
It's nice.
You're young enough.
It's nice.
Can we take a moment and just celebrate awesomeness, and then rip it apart a little bit later?
How about not ripping it apart?
Lovely. Yeah, I'm not saying it's not lovely.
It's nice. It's a very nice.
It should be able to print.
It's very nice.
Nice is like a cup of coffee from Starbucks. This is revolutionary. I mean, it's this and Facebook are really all that matter right now. Chatter. Sorry, Steve. Chatter is very important as well. But
yeah, well, you'll see. You'll find out. I can't talk about unreleased products.
God, you guys always get me all worked up on them. I can only do this show once every couple months now.
Well, that's your point of view.
Sorry, Mike. I'm trying to wind you up.
Robert, I loved you in Pirate Radio, by the way. You were great in that movie. Top notch.
He should totally grow the beard, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up on a high note. Let's go once around, and everybody gets the last word. Let's start with Robert. Well, you have to turn your mic on.
Google is going to do something next week, and I am hearing about Google Buzz APIs and new Gmail widgets, and it'll be a fun show next week.
Okay. That was pretty lame. You want to try something else?
What?
How about the Google Wave?
Beer and steak here in Omaha.
How about the return of Google Wave?
Possible. Google Wave's an abortion.
Well, there you go.
Oh no! I heard they have some. Well, anyway.
Okay, well that's
some stuff's coming up with the Wave.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Are they going to add permalinks? Are they going to make it work? Are they going to get rid of the stupid email interface?
I'm not sure I've logged into Wave this year, to be honest.
If you did, you would realize it's an abortion. So.
Hey. Okay, Kevin.
For me, well, next week's going to be interesting because it's IAW for the beginning of the week, and then there's I.O. So IAW, I think, will actually get more interesting stuff done because it usually does. And there's a whole bunch of stuff going on there about the the open standards that everyone, including Facebook, is working on, and that's going to be useful for me. I think.
But the problem is that all the open standards guys now work for Google, with the exception of David Ricordan.
And me.
Oh, that's true. All right, so
and Blaine. That's not true. There's a bunch of us working on this stuff, and there are a bunch of people at Facebook working on it too. So that I hope maybe give Facebook a way to sort of come back from the sort of debacle they've had this week by actually sort of doing that stuff, and maybe they can get Elliot to spin that better. I don't know. I think the thing interesting about Wave is that it was kind of subtle, but in Google Docs now they now have the operational transform stuff that Wave has for editing. I don't know if you noticed this. They shipped it last week. But now when you edit in Google Docs, you get two cursors and the stuff happens in real time. So to some extent, sort of Wave's actual big advantage.
But that's not Wave.
But
that's not Wave. It's different code.
Yeah. But it's the same idea.
It's as likely that Jiri had something to do with it that Lars did. I mean, it's like 3 different teams doing 3 different things.
Of course, this is Google Web.
Okay.
There's Google Voice ringing all 25 of my phones at once.
Now there's a feature.
A feature in search of a platform.
That's what I'm calling.
Okay, Danny, last thoughts?
Who's doing that?
It's Mike.
Oh, Mike.
The iPod's revolutionary, I admit it, and Facebook's going to rule everything, and it's going to be great. And that's Gizmodo calling to say that they found Mike's phone. Somebody found it in a bar. They're going to do a breakdown on it, and it'll be great.
Okay, but enough of your comedy stylings. What do you have to say?
I tend to be pessimistic that despite all the PR hoopla that Facebook will actually learn a lesson, and I think that they're just going to continue to push things more and more public against the will of a bunch of people, or without them really being aware of it. But we'll survive and we'll live with it. I think there's a better way that they could do it, and I wish that they would do it. And I wish you didn't have to read, I wish you could just, go. I wish they would actually just give me a big button that says make everything public, so I could just get it over with, and everybody could get it over with.
I think that's
rather than these 20,000 different little controls that are out there.
Well, it sounds like you're saying what Zuckerberg says.
Well, no, just so that you know where you're at, right? So you don't start thinking, well, I guess this is okay or that's okay. But I think the real problem for Facebook on the privacy is not what you're going to do on the site, but what Facebook starts tracking that you're doing off the site and perhaps reporting into lots of different places. That's a whole nother world, and that's what they would like to, and that's a harder thing to control, because you just may not want people to share everything you're doing on the web any more than you might want people to be sharing everything you're doing in your real life.
So when you decide that you want to click a like button, you should think about that. Is that what you're telling me?
No. I think that what it's going to be is not just that you click a like button, but that you're going to be on some website that is Facebook enabled in the way that, say, Yelp is. And it's going to be there, and it's going to recognize who you are, and it's going to really, really know who you are in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's called My Blog Log. It was happening 5 years ago. Remember My Blog Log? They were stealing your information a long time ago.
Even more than My Blog Log, because Facebook has some very detailed profiles of people.
Yeah, because they're popular.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's like a less scary type of thing.
I disagree. People. I don't think it's scary when everybody likes something and then all their data goes there, that somehow that's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing potentially if somebody is able to track everything that you go to online, and you don't really want some of that stuff tracked.
Oh, you mean like Google?
Yes, it's a bad thing for Google as well. But the different thing with Google is that while they are tracking what lots of people are doing, the tracking, a lot of what they're tracking is tied to a cookie. They don't have your personal information. They don't have your friends. They don't have some of that other stuff.
They've got the contents of my email. They know what I'm talking about with people privately. Take a look at the little ads. The ads are responding.
Way worse. That's way worse than the Facebook.
Sure. If you're using Google for your email, that is potentially a big, huge thing. Lots of people are scared about it.
I've been an avid user since the day that they shipped it.
But Facebook does that for your daughter too. You know, your daughter uses Facebook for her email.
I get that. I don't think it's a problem. Okay, Mike, last thoughts. No, he's on his next call. Okay, we will now have silence. Mike, last thoughts?
Hey, yeah, I gotta go. I wanted to give away a ticket to TechCrunch Disrupt on the air here, if you want me to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So TechCrunch Disrupt is May 24th through 26th in New York. We're gonna have, well, John Doerr is gonna speak. We haven't announced that yet. He's gonna speak in the morning. Yuri Milner, a whole bunch of speakers. It's gonna be really good. Robert Scoble is gonna be there, right, Robert?
Absolutely.
We're going to have a couple thousand people. We're going to sell out next week, but there's so many people I could fit in a few more. So if you want me to give away a ticket, how do I do it? Do I do it on like Building 41 or 2 or something? Or do I do
Building
it on
43? Well, why don't you announce it, and then the people who see this on YouTube can also participate, or maybe do one for live and one for playback.
All right. Well, should we for live, should we do it on Friend Feed? Is that where the comments are? Or Ustream or Building 43 or...
Sure.
How? I don't know. This is your show, man.
I don't know. This is live. We're figuring it out right now.
Well, are you having a contest? Are you just going to make first something?
Why don't they go to your Why don't they go to your website and say something in comments on your website, and if it gets through the blockade, then you pick one and they win.
I'm going to make an executive decision. I'm going to do it on Friend Feed because it's open on my desktop on the comments, and the first person to say. What?
Executive dynamism in action here.
The first person to say Kevin Marks is a negative Nelly and needs to take happy pills can get a free ticket to Disrupt.
Okay. And scene.
Is it?
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this one.
What? Anyway, thanks for having me on the show, Steve.
Yeah, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. And I want to thank Robert. And I want to thank Kevin, and I want to thank Danny, although we're going to have a little talk about your... just kidding. I really appreciate you being here, Danny.
I meant to shave, I'm sorry.
I actually have to spell my name right here.
I want to thank Rackspace, and particularly Rob Legess, without whom this show would not be on the air. And I want to thank NewTek and their fabulous TriCaster, without whom this show would not be on video. And I want to thank our producer and director, Tina Chase, and our technical advisor, Cliff Garish. And we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Steve.
Bye-bye, Steve. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.